So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 1% Club Roundtable, the latest in the series. Today, we're talking about the 7 lead generation mistakes that you must avoid. And I suppose, where does this come into? It's at that sort of top of the funnel. You know, that we spoke in previous sessions about the buyer's journey and how you can position yourself in the best possible way. You know, before you get to that stage, you need to get people coming into the funnel. So that's what we're going to talk about today. For those of you that have not been on one of these sessions before, I think most of you have, but a couple haven't. My name is Tony Lockwood. I set up the Transformation Leaders Hub well, in lockdown 1. So almost the sort of catalyst for it happened almost 2 years ago, didn't it, I suppose, which is frightening if you think about what's happened over the last 2 years. And the concept was, after 25 plus years in change and transformation, I realized that a lot of my jobs and a lot of my work and a lot of my clients had come through the network. So the whole concept of TLH was to get people to come together. And then the back end of last year, we started to roll out these roundtables, which are a discussion, really. I share a little bit of information, a little bit, some tools, some techniques, some guides, some best practice, world-class basics, as someone once described them. And, you know, I for 15, 20 minutes, and then we open it up for a discussion. A lot of the times the discussion relates to the content that we're talking about. But quite often it doesn't, especially if we let Neil get involved in that discussion.
Yeah, I can't go off on a tangent.
So Neil and I know each other from way back. So he was one of the first people involved in TLH. So you know, we have a bit of banter every now and again. Yeah. So let me share my screen and get into the content, and then we can open it up for discussion. So hopefully you can see the screen now. 7 lead generation mistakes you must avoid. So as we have been doing over the last few weeks, starting off with this question, why it matters. Well, fundamentally, lead generation is an essential aspect for. Sorry, I can just see Shootan's cat coming across the screen. Got my attention. So why does it matter? As I say, really, for any business, having a regular flow of leads coming into the business is an essential for keeping the business afloat and scaling the business. And it is a process, and it is a machine that you need to develop and build as you look to build and scale a business, so that you can. And the key words there is a sustainable flow. The challenge is many organizations end up getting lumpy levels of lead generation, and often those leads come in at the wrong time when they're not actually looking actively for business, and then they'll grab hold of it and start to struggle to deliver. So if you can develop a process that creates a steady flow of new business opportunities, that's what we ultimately look to strive to achieve. So let's start looking at the 7 mistakes, and rest assured, we also provide some insights into how you can avoid each of these mistakes. The first one is that people don't focus on a well-defined niche. Now, they tend to position themselves as generalists, and I think this is what we find in talking to a lot of people who operate in change and transformation. We've all got lots of experience, and we've all got lots of skills that we can share and bring that experience to other sectors, to different organizations, different sizes of organizations. We've all worked in many different environments. And a lot of us tend to position ourselves as generalists. But from a lead generation perspective, that's the worst place you can be, because you tend to be seen to be too broad. You tend to be generic. And what that does is, if people do put their hands up and say, yeah, can you come and talk to me? They're not necessarily the the best leads that you can get. It can create more challenges than it's worth, really. So how do you overcome that? Well, we talk it within the Transformation Leaders Hub and the Mastermind program that we've developed. We talk about creating your one thing. So really positioning yourself as the go-to firm or the go-to person for a specific issue within a specific sector. So you're moving away from being a generalist in terms of your marketing, in terms of your materials, to becoming a very focused a person or a business that's focused on a particular sector with a particular issue. Mistake number 2 is that they don't emphasize a clearly defined outcome that they can deliver. So potential leads don't understand why they should work with them. And again, come back to that sort of change and transformation piece. Well, we deliver change and transformation. We help organizations successfully navigate major change. We get involved in mergers and acquisitions and help on the integrations, all generic type of conversations and discussions. And really, by not being clear about the pain points that you're there to help to resolve, is there any real reason for the prospect to engage with you? So the way to overcome that is to focus on that specific pain point that your ideal client from the previous one, from the one thing that you focus upon, their pain points, and start to talk openly about those pain points within that sector or within that niche that you want to focus in on, and talk openly in terms of your point of view about that pain point or about that sector, about that niche. And share materials just on that issue. So all of your social media, all of the information that's available that you can share with people, bring it into that very clear, well-defined niche that we spoke about earlier. Mistake number 3. They do not have a compelling value proposition. And when you don't have a compelling value proposition, again, there's a struggle to differentiate from other providers out there. And what tends to happen is, as we spoke about a few weeks ago when we looked at that sort of the buyer's process, then as a buyer, as an organization that's looking to engage with consultants to come in and support them to meet their pain points, they're not ideally they just come and see you and realize that you are you are sent from heaven, you are the Messiah, and you've got everything that they need. But in reality, they probably look around and start engaging with other people as well, just to get a different view and different perspectives. Yeah, and if you can't define your real compelling value proposition, the likelihood is that maybe one of your other clients have got one of the other competitors, one of the other organizations, maybe have a slightly better proposition than you. So you lose that opportunity. So you've attracted them into your funnel, but when you start to engage with them or started to share information with them, you can't really demonstrate that value proposition. How do you overcome that? Get skin in the game. And what I mean by skin in the game, can you link your fees to the value that you deliver? Can you provide some guarantees? Can you mitigate any risk that any buyer will naturally feel as they're going through that process? In the past, I think I mentioned in previous sessions, I've done work around cost reduction, and I'd put a guarantee in that if we can't deliver a 400% return on investment, don't pay us a bean. Equally, I did a piece of work a few years ago where it was they were undecided about whether to engage with us and whether or not to challenge us on the fees, and they started to challenge on the fees, and I just went by and said, look, let's do it. That's my fee. But at the end of the process, if you don't feel that you've been given the necessary value, you haven't had the value of that fee, don't pay me anything. But how do we measure that? They said, doesn't matter. If you don't feel that you've had value, then I don't want you to pay the fee. And it just took that issue away. It just took that challenge away. we did I was confident enough that we were able to deliver what we set out to deliver, and they paid the fee without any argument or any discussion in due course. So get that skin in the game is critical. We do that with the mastermind. We say, if after 12 months of going through the process, you don't feel that you've been able to get the minimum return on investment, which is 10 times the fee that you paid, or you don't feel that you've had value, we'll give you your actually refund full your whole 12 months fees that you've paid to us. So again, just that skin in the game, it takes away, it removes the risk that any buyer is facing. Mistake number 4, and I touched on this earlier, they undertake lead generation activities when they're looking for work. And that creates this sort of feast and famine. And equally from a perspective, client perspective, sometimes you're completely in the face, other times they've no idea who you are, you're nowhere to be seen. And that inconsistency leads to that feast and famine roller coaster, which creates cash flow issues, because you start looking for your next piece of work when one project is ending, and you tend to then create gaps in cash flow, and that tends to mean, especially as you're scaling, it means that you may have cash flow issues. That means that you have to lay people off if you've got a team, or you've got to do more of the work yourself, and get pulled into that delivery mode. And as soon as you get pulled back into the delivery mode, that becomes that stops you from scaling. It prevents you from scaling, because actually you've only got a certain amount of time that you can exchange for money. And as you scale any business, especially a consulting business, it's your ability to manage the process and manage a team where you can actually get the real benefit. So what's the alternative to this? It's consistency. And again, I've spoken about this numerous times, but a best practice, a world-class basic, is to create some type of hour of power or 30 minutes of motivation, whatever it is, but put it in your diary daily. Block out a particular time slot where you are doing marketing activities or lead generation activities. Yeah, so you don't have to worry, because it's in the diary, and then stuff that you can do just to keep in touch with people, to put more material out there, so that again you're focusing in on that clearly defined niche, and you're out there in a consistent way, and it's critical that you've got that consistency. Mistake number 5: clients trust the owner, you, and not their consulting business. And again, that's not uncommon, because historically, within this sort of change and transformation world, people have bought the individual. A lot of people that I'm working with now are people that have been doing interim work, or they've been doing freelance consultancy work, and they're looking to pivot and build a consulting business. But the client's experience of them has been them doing the work and delivering the work. So they've got trust in them, but would they have trust in the wider consulting team? And that's an issue, and it's something that you need to be aware of, and it's something that you need to be have the mindset that you need to move away from for what we've just spoken about. The way to overcome this is to what I term productization. So we've all got a way of working. We've all got a typical process that we take organizations through when we become engaged on a particular issue or a particular pain point. Well, productize that, develop that out, map it out in terms of what it is that you're going to do, what it is that you do, shall I say. That then becomes your IP, and that then becomes what you can talk the client through that, which helps them to build trust in your ability to deliver the change and deliver the outcome that they're looking for, but at the same time gives you a platform on which to bring new people into the business and new people into the firm that can follow your proven process. So again, it's just giving people, taking the natural way that you work out of your head, documenting it so that you can use it as a marketing piece and demonstrate what you're going to take people, the process you're going to take people through and the outcome you're going to deliver. But more importantly, it gives a platform on which to introduce new people to follow your process. Mistake number 6, they don't generate the right leads. So what's the impact on that? Well, if you're getting leads that is not really your ideal leads, but you're not getting leads from your ideal clients, the likelihood is that you'll grab hold of those opportunities because you need to keep cash flowing into the business. But that will end up, I suppose, really reinforcing the fact that you're a generalist. And coming back right to the start, that positioning of being a generalist is a difficult one to do because there's lots of people out there. There's lots of people bidding for the work, and so you know, if you can, you've got to get to a stage where you are attracting the right leads with the right pain points from the right niche, and to some extent being brave enough to let the other leads go. And I appreciate that's counterintuitive for many of us, because if there's an opportunity there and we feel we can deliver it, the likelihood is that we'll probably grab hold of it. But the more you grab hold of it and the more you remain in that sort of generalist field, the less chance you have to scale and grow the business. So the solution there is really to be clear about your avatar and get absolute clarity on your one thing, their pain points, and talk directly to them. And in social media in particular, a simple way of doing this is starting with a question. You know, I often start, do you work in project program change management? I could do a subline saying something like, if you don't, move on, because this isn't for you. But you know, that's the hidden message. It's let's be absolutely clear of who we want to talk to. Put it in right up front of any material that you're putting out there. And by definition, you start to segment the people that are engaging with you. You start, because if they are not project program change management professionals, the likelihood is that they will just move on. They won't read in. If they read in and there's something of interest and there's a call to action at the end and they reach out to us, the likelihood, not in every situation, but the likelihood is that they are the ideal clients and the ideal prospects that they're looking for. And the final mistake is that people don't nurture the leads. You know, we spoke about the buyer's process a few weeks ago. And for those that weren't on that, we record all of these and they're made available within a Facebook group. So if you want to catch up with the previous ones, let me know and I'll send you a link to the Facebook group. But yeah, they don't nurture the leads. And from a buyer's perspective, yeah, they might start to experience the pain point, but they go through a process themselves to work out who they should start to engage with, when they should start to engage with them. And just because you've hit them today doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready to buy from you today. So if they've engaged with you, the key is to keep in touch with them in a systematic way, and start to build the relationship up with them. And that's really what we're talking about here in terms of this long-term warming up funnel. It is a funnel. You know, you go get hundreds of people coming in at the top, but actually you might only ever get 10 coming out at the bottom that becomes clients. The key is to get a regular flow of people coming into the top of the funnel so that they can naturally go through the segmentation process and come out at the end. If you're not keeping in touch with them on a regular basis, they'll start to leak out. So it's that sort of you know, that holy can, that you know, there's holes in your watering can, the water flows out when you don't want it to do. And the key is to keep in touch with them. That helps you to be front of mind with them. And if you're adding value on everything that you're doing, then they'll naturally put their hand up when they're ready to engage with you, and you can start to talk to them, and they will have gone through the first few phases of that buyer's process that we spoke about in the past. So those are the 7 mistakes, and what I think are the 7 solutions to those mistakes. We go into a lot more detail within the Mastermind Program, where we work with people to go through, along this roadmap really, where we take people from momentum, accelerator, optimize, and then to leverage, and really help us to build and scale consulting business. If you're interested in understanding more about these mistakes and the ways that we think we can overcome and the program, click on that, go on that score app. It gives you a real opportunity to start looking at each one of these in a little bit more detail, and let's get a strategy call set up so we can start talking specifically about you and what your needs are, and we can go into a lot more detail about the 7 areas. But with that, let me stop sharing and open it up for discussion, thoughts and comments. Who wants to go first? Deadly silence.
Tony, I would just say a lot of those points we've covered several times, but because of the importance of them, I think it's really good to put them all together like that. Lead generation is the only thing that's going to make you any money. So yeah, I think I've heard all of those individually, but having them all together is really useful and to reinforce that message. Yeah.
It's not difficult. What we do is not difficult. It's just getting consistency in delivering them and focus upon each aspect of those. Because if you don't, then, and if you let one of those things get in the way, then you get those inconsistencies. You're not getting people coming into the top of your funnel, and you're not getting the business opportunities coming through at the bottom. So, and like you said, there's nothing new out there. It's rehashing what's proven, and bringing these different strands together is critical, I think.
It's like you've got the sign saying record this. It's almost like you should have that on your laptop every morning, marketing hour of power or something like that, to make sure you do it, or a reminder to say, because it is the only thing it's the blood that keeps your beast going. So it's so important.
And because we tend to have been, because of what we've done in the past, delivery focused people, it doesn't come naturally to us. It's not the natural thought when we wake up in the morning to do sales and marketing activities.
Yeah.
You tend to always let's get into the detail because we deliver the outcomes. And actually, if you don't do the upfront stuff, you suddenly dry up opportunities at the back end. Any other thoughts or experiences, or just general thoughts on what we spoke about?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yeah.
So resolving pain points is one thing. Obviously, as kind of consultants, we resolve multiple different types of pain points. Now, if we were to focus on one, so let's say for argument's sake, agile ways of working was kind of a huge thing, but everyone's jumped the bandwagon and everyone's on it and everyone understands it now. So that pain point is almost disappearing. What would you say we could do to keep on trend in terms of keeping up with the right pain points throughout, whichever niche we choose?
In my experience, just taking that example, then although lots of organizations will say, oh, we're having problems with agile implementation, or etc., that's not necessarily a pain point. That's just a process that they're following to overcome a particular pain point. So it's almost getting back to what's causing them, the organization and the individual, their specific pain, what's keeping them awake at night. And it will be because they need to introduce something and it's overrunning, or the budget's gone out of control, or the benefits are not being delivered. It's that's the pain, not the fact that agile is being embedded effectively or not. That agile is a tool that they're using to try to resolve that pain, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's just more along the lines of, once the pain point's been resolved and that no longer exists as a whole, then what would we do? Because obviously we know how to solve multiple pain points. So I think that's kind of my question is,
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. So once you're into an organization and you've worked with them and you've delivered them, you've got that degree of trust. And if you can, in that discussion and that ongoing sort of relationship piece, they ask you to do other things. There's absolutely that's the perfect scenario, isn't it? It's not, what we're talking about here is not necessarily saying you can't do other stuff. Yeah, it's let's be clear about what we are actively going to market ourselves out as, and be very clear about that. But ultimately, any marketing is aimed at opening up conversations, which is aimed at opening up opportunities, which is aimed at opening up delivery and outcomes, and then building those relationships out with, because it's far easier to sell into an existing client than it ever is to open up a new client. And as long as you've got the wherewithal and the capabilities and the team available to deliver on different aspects within a client, that is absolutely the way to scale a consulting business.
Thank you. Thanks, Tony.
Brendan.
Yeah, what's your view on the front end of this sort of funnel in terms of sort of like outsourcing that lead generation activity? The analogy I'll give you is kind of dating, and sometimes we all need a bit of help in making those contacts, which ultimately lead to relationships. But some are better than others, and the likelihood that your perfect client is going to be in the same pub as you is not always there. So what's your view on that?
I think absolutely. If you can get to a point where you are very clearly understand who it is you want to talk to, and you've gone through the process of working out what works and what doesn't work when you start to engage with them. Once you've proven that through different tests, and you've got a mechanism or a process that works, absolutely outsource it. A lot of people fall into the trap of saying, I don't know how to do this, I'm just going to outsource it, and they don't, it doesn't work, or it doesn't deliver to them what they're expecting in a short period of time, and they then start to question whether or not that outsourcing will ever work. It's like any outsourcing. You don't outsource crap or bad process, or an issue. You try to sort it out and then outsource it, because that's how you can get your efficiencies, and that's how you can start to leverage your business. And it's critical here that you understand what it is that you're outsourcing, understand what it is that you're asking them to do, and then outsource it. A subsequent, a related question, shall I say, is, can I bring other people in to help me do that lead generation activity and help me to think about the process and the way that I should do that, and the pain points and the marketing material? Absolutely. But I would say that's almost a bit of consultancy first, for them to help you to get your clarity in your mind about what the messaging should be, who you should be targeting, etc., etc. And once you've done that, it might be a more effective way of that, rather than outsourcing to them, actually outsourcing to a virtual assistant or someone that you can have more control of within your business, as opposed to just engaging a third-party organization. So I think there's a part that says there's absolutely a role for externals to come in and help you to get that clarity, but before you outsource the process, let's be sure that you're outsourcing things that work, as opposed to getting people to follow a due process rather than just letting them get on with it themselves. Does that make sense? Brilliant. Neil?
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been attending Redbridge Chamber of Commerce, who've got some consultants in to help them grow businesses, and I've been taking on board what they're saying and what they've identified that the process, one of the processes you would is the immediate follow-up when you get them in, and they've shown me how, you know, I could do that on my site. You get them in, but then you follow up with emails, but you don't do the emails yourself. I think it's MailChimp is the one that they use, and I'm going to take a look at that. But once you've got their details, and I've got a report that I've done on why they need to do what I'm selling, and I'm going to let them have that for nothing. It's not got any details about how I do it. It's just some general approach, the productization side. But after that, you follow up with emails to say, you know, how are you getting on with the report? You know, I hope you found it interesting. And you follow that up with an automated email through MailChimp. And that's tried and trusted, and millions of people use it. So I'm going to give that a go. I've never used it before, but that's what they said.
There's lots of these tools around. So
any you'd recommend?
Well, there's loads of them, to be fair, and they're all much of a muchness. And MailChimp is proven, it's been around for years and years and years. It's just a tool. The key is the messaging that you put into it, and the way that you build that sort of sequencing up, and always drive value and always be seen to be delivering value within those messages. But I use a tool called Expandy, which is an automation tool for LinkedIn. So I used to, in my hour of power, I used to reach out to 30, 40 people a day, inviting them to connect, and then follow them up. You know, I'd probably get, I think I keep a track on it. I get, 56%, 56.8% so far since I started doing this. Accept my request, because again, I've been very clear about who I want to target. I have a very clear message, and then I follow up saying, you know, have a look at TLH, blah blah blah. So it was working, it was proven, but you know the time challenge that was starting to take a lot of my time up. So there's a tool called Expandy that I use that does all that for me. And then, you know, sends out 3 or 4 messages afterwards. But anytime anyone responds to it, it stops. So it gives me the control, and I just go into Expandy now and look at where people have responded to me, and I can engage with. EXPANDI.io, I think it is the website.
Expandio.
Yeah. It's expandy.io, I think, is the website. But it just gives you that capability of automating stuff that you know works. So you're going back to Brendan. I did have my daughter doing some of that when she before she went off to university. So I'd outsourced it to her, so I knew we could do it and keep in touch with people. But then actually, for I think it's £70 a month, you know, that's doing it. So now it gives us all, it tracks everything, gives me all the information. I'm sending out lots and lots of messages every day to people that's adding value, and I get lots of positive feedback from them. But it's all automated. I don't have to do anything. So it's just getting my messaging out in a consistent way. And once they've come into the organisation and started to give me their email address for whatever reason, whether it's coming on things like this, or whether it's coming on to the virtual networking sessions, or where we give them some value in terms of some materials, well, then I use Zoho Campaign, but that's a MailChimp equivalent, and Active Campaign's another one that then sends out materials afterwards. But it's all aimed at giving value and, I suppose, feeding them back into the funnel, so that, coming back to what we were talking about earlier, when they're ready to engage with me, they'll engage with me, and they already know a little bit about me and a little bit about what we do and how we do it, because they've had lots of value already. Chris.
Yeah, hi. I'm listening to this, and you've touched on a few of the kind of cautionary areas. One is, if we assume we're single operators, we're independent professionals, and we look for work, we find a job, and then we dedicate full time to it, and we go through the feast and famine, which you've recognized. Probably what you're suggesting is, when you finish your really heavy, dedicated 2-3 year role, and you've got your feast on the table, use that time to really to generate the leads and build the team, so that you can hand over. Because the challenge is, as an independent operator, you generate all of these leads and you keep people warm, but you increase your email and inflow and communication management so much, and once one bites, you're full-time on that role. So you're either doing it to go full-time again, which is feast or famine, or you're doing it to really focus down on niche and focus down on minimum amount of time you spend with a client, but highest value. So then you're not full-time, you're part-time with several clients, or you use your feast to build up a team and generate that way. I mean, it seems to be.
Yeah. I think that's a good summary, Chris. I think it's this approach is more relevant to people that want to get away from that feast or famine piece, want to get away from being just exchanging time for money, and want to build something that is not dependent upon them exchanging their personal time on a contract. Not to say that they can't do that as you go through, but it's focused upon those people that are looking to build more of an asset that's not just personal, reliant just on their own personal time. Hitesh.
Hi, Tony. A question just on, I guess this is more around, I guess, consulting services. Some of the area that I've been working on is actually shifting consulting service to a kind of more product and service. Yeah. I'll just get your view on what mistakes could happen in that space as well, in terms of, in terms of lead generation, where you're almost kind of operating in a more differentiated space around, kind of this tech plus human aspect.
So when you say product, just so I'm clear, how are you defining that?
So products that support the delivery of services within, different spheres. So where your kind of value proposition is around, this plus a tool that has a bit of AI on the back of it. So I was just trying to get kind of your view on that.
I think we all carry around a rucksack of tools, don't we, and techniques that we will work and engage with clients with, and some of those are technical solutions that will help them to move from A to B. I think it's still, as far as I'm concerned, it's still very, very relevant to focus upon their pain points though first. Be clear about their pain points and talk about how you can help them and demonstrate how you can help them to move away from that pain to wherever they want, the outcome that they're looking to get to. Yeah, and be clear about what you can do and what your firm can do to, and the process that you will take them through to go from where they are now, their pain, to their desired outcome. And if that part of that solution is technology or technical or product of some description, in absolutely embed that within the way that you describe the journey that you're going to take them through. Yeah, but don't lead on the product, if that makes sense. Yeah, always lead on the pain, because no one's interested in you, no one's interested in the product. They're interested in the outcome, that they and they're interested in how you can help them to move away from that pain that they're feeling right now. And all too often, technology businesses tend to lead on the capabilities, the functionality of the technology, and the features of it. And anyone who's ever gone through any sales training will have been told never talk about features, always talk about benefits. Yeah, I think it's just taking it a step back and saying, actually, let's really talk to the individual and what's keeping them awake at night, and then show them a process and a journey that you can take them through to get them to where they want to get to, and intertwine the products and the solutions and the techniques as you as you go through that journey to allow them to build the trust in you that you can actually help them to take that journey successfully. Does that make sense?
Yep, thank you.
Anybody else want to add anything to that and their experience?
I just wanted to ask, just go back to the previous question around, the feast of famine part. How do you break that pattern? Because obviously, I think many of us might agree that we've gone through a phase where we've tried to set something up, run out of capital, gone back to work, and we go into a cycle. How do you break that pattern? Full cycle, so to speak.
It's difficult, absolutely difficult. I think the way that I've done it, and the way I know a lot of people have done it, is, and I touched on it earlier in terms of this productization. So, for instance, one of the things that I did, I as I said at the start, I've been involved in change and transformation for 25 plus years now. And probably about 6 or 7 years ago, when I started to sort of think about this pivoting away from just running programs and projects, I'd sort of productized a piece, an element that was, it's a program assurance tool or transformation assurance tool, depending upon the organization. It can be either or. But in essence, what I sell now is an independent review of the change program, of the transformation program. That can go in for fixed price for a short period of time, and it can get right to the issues and help them to understand where they may be haven't got everything in place and where the risks are within that program. Yeah, so that's sold as a fixed price engagement, and because the fact that it is a review of the program, the likelihood is that they ask me to go back in 3-6 months time to do another one to see what the progress is. So I know from what we've been doing, for every 10 of those that we complete, yeah, 6 or so, well, 5.6 of them come back and say, yeah, can you come back and do another review in 3 or 6 months time? But something like 2.5% of them then come back and say, well, we've got these major issues. What can you do to help us resolve those major issues? And that's when the discussion then goes and saying, okay, well, sometimes you need extra arms and legs, sometimes you need some specific skill set, and that's when I then come back into TLH, my general network, the firm that I'm working with, to introduce people that can do that, and I then manage that process and manage that delivery team, not manage the team rather than manage the program, if that makes sense. So it's it's coming back to your question. It's being clear about what you want to do, and positioning that in my case, positioning that independent rather than positioning me as someone who can come in and manage a program. And the beauty of it is that that independent assessment is charged on a fixed fee. It's not based upon day rates, so you can link it to value really clearly. So I sell those probably equivalent of 2, sometimes 3 months worth of day rate consulting. So it starts to build up that sort of that bank account almost, that strength in your bank account. That makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've got probably 2 things that I could definitely start using from that perspective. So yeah, thank you. That makes total sense.
Cheers, Luke. We're coming to, well, we've just gone beyond the 45 minutes. We'll carry on. I know there's other people who've got some questions, but if you do need to leave, then thank you for joining, and hopefully see you in a future one. Neil, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to Sheetal's point. It's also about what you getting clear about what you offer. I've narrowed down to a specific product that I'm looking to offer, and I'm in the process of identifying or productizing. I hate that word; it's very American, but to trying to create a set of tools that I can offer and show people. And it is consulting, but it's, you know, what would I do on the first meeting? And the first meeting, I'm explaining the problem to them, you know, in more detail than I've put on my marketing stuff, and why they need to do this and how we go about it and the next steps. And at the end of that, I would want them to give me their views on where they are and what their risks are. The next step is then to, you know, identify what they need to do to set up their own team, etc., embed it into their, you know, the organization. So it's, and I've only been able to do that by narrowing it down to the niche that I want to deliver. And it's not a, oh, I'm doing transformation. It is very much focused on what I want to do as well. It's not, oh, I think that would be good. It's, I actually really feel strongly about it. So it is identifying how you would deliver that to a client and the stages you go through. I mean, I've been through several iterations, and some of it is practical. You know, you're not going to get the C-suite together for a week. So you've got to say, right, well, what can I realistically do? And just working through an example really of how you think you would deliver it to a client. And then each of those sessions, well, the first session is one product, the next two sessions is another product, next two sessions another product, and you put a value on it. And it's true, you can generate more income than a day rate because I'm putting a price on it, because there's all the preparation that goes into it beforehand. So it's,
because you position yourself then as more of a consultant than an interim or a program leader.
I mean, it helps.
It's a different expectation.
I'm not trying to get, you know, a 6-month role. I'm trying to get in, tell them what to do, and get them set up to do it themselves. So it is by its very nature a short-term assignment, but they will come back to me for help because, you know, I will support them fully and make that clear. But I'm not trying to do a land and expand. I'm trying to write, this is what you need to do and do it in this way. Now I'll walk away and they'll come back. And so it's lots of small things rather than one massive one, and then you're so focused on it you don't do the other bits and pieces.
Brilliant. Any final questions, or shall we pull it to a close? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming along today. As I say, if there's anything that you want to explore a bit deeper, give us a shout, set up a call, and we can go into it deeper. And if you want to catch up on any of the previous episodes, or the previous roundtables, let me know, and I'll send you a link to the Facebook group. But thank you very much, and hopefully see you in the on the session next week. Cheers, then.